I live in a cantonment area, so there are posters with motivational messages everywhere. One of them shows a rock climber stuck halfway up a cliff, too afraid to continue going upward or come back down. The poster says, "Fear kills more dreams than danger ever did." That got me thinking, how many things in life do we miss out on because we are too afraid to plunge into the unknown? How many of you have ever missed out on an incredible opportunity because you were too afraid to take the first step? Let's be honest, most of us have done this at one point or another. That needs to change. My talk is titled Carpe Diem, the value of seizing opportunity. Carpe Diem is Latin for seize the day. It is about making the most of the present and not worrying about what the future may hold for us. This is a topic that I hold very close to my heart. My life has been defined by the opportunities I took and the opportunities I let go of. A pivotal moment for me was when I was selected to compete in a math competition against students several grades above me. I spent the entire month before the competition panicking, convinced that I was too young, that I was going to fail horribly, and that I had absolutely no business being here. On the day of the competition, I was shocked to find out that I actually knew stuff. That taught me the importance of trying, regardless of my confidence. Since then, I've achieved several things, and I'm here to share the lessons I learned along the way. Let's begin by asking, what is an opportunity? An opportunity is anything that allows us to learn or grow as a person. By now, some of you might be wondering, why does this matter? So what if we just ignore opportunities? Well, to those of you who are wondering, I'd like to ask a question. How many of you have dreamt of getting into a top college, and after that, getting a great job? Most of us have done this, right? The catch is, recruiters don't care about your board marks or your JEE rank or whatever exam you wrote. They focus on the skills you have outside of your degree, in addition to the skills you needed to earn that degree in the first place. Let's look at so colleges also focus on students who are willing to go beyond the bounds of the curriculum and explore what they're curious about. Let's look at the MIT admission statistics, for example. Each of these icons depicts 500 people who applied. Out of them, only around 1,000, those 2 green people, actually got in. Even if we look solely at so-called talented students with excellent SAT scores and a straight A average, there are still around 15,000 people competing for this. To stand out in this dynamic world, you need to constantly be seizing every opportunity to improve and learn new skills. As Andy Grove put it, only the paranoid survive. We can either change with the changing world or be left to remain in the dust. New fields are constantly emerging while others shut. To go all in on any one particular avenue is like building a massive mansion on a single support and hoping that the next AI tool to come around doesn't knock it all over. Opportunities provide the way for us to diversify our skill set and ensure that no matter how the world changes, we always have a place in it. Lastly, opportunities can be a way for you to discover what you could be good at and develop new interests. I only found my love for programming when I did a course on it online during the lockdown. Now, how do we go about doing this? Opportunities are everywhere in the world, especially with access to all the resources we have these days. The challenge is in finding out about them and using them properly. Firstly, we need to be willing to volunteer for projects, even if we think we are underqualified. Sometimes a fresh perspective is all it takes to come up with a great idea. Just asking questions and being willing to listen is all it takes to make a difference. Second, and this is very important, we need to be able to step out of our comfort zone. It may seem terrifying walking an uncharted path into the unknown, but it is only through trying new things that we can truly learn. The first time I tried public speaking was at the MUN in 6th grade. I was terrified. I barely said more than a few sentences, and now I stand before you all, having conquered that fear. Next, we need to keep an eye out on social media, ideally without getting distracted watching cat videos. LinkedIn and Instagram have become the primary platforms on which most opportunities at least for students, are advertised. By keeping an eye out on them, we ensure that we are not left in the dark about any major life-changing events. Furthermore, we need to always be ready to try new things and try everything. We can't let an opportunity go by unless you're absolutely sure that it is not worth your time or is something that you would really dislike doing. However, it's important to recognize that not all opportunities are created equally. Some, such as residential programs by reputed universities, like the Lodha Genius Programme I attended, can be life-changing experiences, while others can be scams, designed to make profit by charging an arm and a leg for a certificate with a fancy logo. There were several barriers I had to overcome in order to succeed. The first of which was the fear of failure. I was too afraid to wander into new tasks because then I might fail, and all that effort would have just been for nothing. My solution to this was to question whether fear would really be as bad as I was making it out to be. The worst thing that could happen was that a few hours of time and the registration fee went to waste. That was a risk worth taking. The second barrier was the belief that I didn't know enough, that everyone else was far more capable than I was. The important thing to remember was that every other person probably has the exact same thoughts going through their heads. None of them truly knew whether I was capable or not. So as long as I acted as if I knew what I was doing, people would assume I was capable. I could be mentally hyperventilating right now, but as long as I project a calm demeanor, I seem like I know what I'm doing, I hope. The third barrier was the conviction that every idea I had already been done and I couldn't do it better. However, as Sir Isaac Newton said, I see far by standing on the shoulders of giants. Every major invention in the modern world has been taking what someone did and doing it just a little bit better than them. This was a significant roadblock for me. When I was designing a headset to help the visually impaired navigate using echolocation technology, I was on the verge of scrapping the idea for being unoriginal. It was then I realized that not a single existing design could detect depth changes, such as a flight of steps. By adding that simple feature, my idea went from basic to revolutionary. That taught me that no matter how dominant something seems, there are always ways that it can be made better, as long as we dare to ask how. The last barriers were a desire for perfection and the belief that I was not ready. The truth is, no project will ever be perfect, and none of us can be ready. There's always that one last thing we can do to just be slightly more better prepared. However, this too was a problem that I grappled with a lot. When I was designing a contactless piano, I kept breaking it apart and reassembling it in order to add one extra feature or make it slightly more compact. This kept going on until the night before the presentation, when I realized that all that remained of my project were a bunch of spare parts scattered around the house. So I spent a sleepless night trying to recreate it and ended up having to go without a lot of the features that I originally envisioned. Despite that, the project still proved successful. That taught me that sometimes it's okay to say the words good enough. It's fine if you put out something that can be made better later on. Nothing needs to be perfect from the start. Now, how do we adopt this mindset in our daily life? First, try new things and be open to learning. Don't focus on things based on the outcome you want from them. Instead, see what you're curious about and explore. Most major discoveries, such as penicillin, were not made by someone seeking to make a discovery. They were someone looking at some interesting thing and wondering why that is happening. Second, don't completely focus on near impossible goals. Aim for them, but be willing to accept partial steps along the way. You can't get from here to there overnight. And don't let the failure to match those insanely high targets that we set upon ourselves detract from our successes. Thirdly, be willing to take risks. Some of the greatest ideas in the world came from ventures that initially sounded crazy. You might be questioning whether these ideas actually have real-world relevance. In fact, there have been several success stories of people with this sort of mindset. Most recently, SpaceX. Their policy of constant testing and rebuilding has led them to become pioneers in the space industry, pushing the boundaries of what we once thought possible. Another famous example is Google. Despite not being the world's first search engine, by making improvements over pre-existing designs, it has become so dominant that we now use Google as a verb. To summarize, taking advantage of opportunities is the key to success. We can do this by constantly paying attention for opportunities, be willing to try despite not knowing what lies ahead of us, and by being ready to act despite the lack of confidence. Most importantly, we must be able to tolerate failure and learn from our mistakes. As Albert Einstein said, a person who has never failed has never tried anything new. I'd like to end with a challenge to all of you. Within the next week, find one opportunity that you've until now neglected and go for it. Just take that first step and make the next week one where we venture into the unknown and discover what's truly possible. As I initially mentioned, I live in an area with a lot of motivational posters. One poster I always remember says that change begins with one person, one moment, and one gesture. That person is you, and that moment is yours to seize.